We're zooming in on field 7, which is where this first game between Regiment in blue from Newfoundland, Labrador, and Mephisto from Quebec will be played. We're working on preserving the fields here in combination with the tournament organizers, which is Ultimate Canada. Andrew Batchelor making sure that we preserve these fields for tomorrow, where we hope to bring you 5 games. Today, we're hoping to bring you 6 games. It's always a minor miracle when the stream gets up and running first thing in the morning. The players are shifting sidelines. This game is timed by observers in orange. And these teams are going to be playing for 70 minutes. Rules, let's start with that right away. So the tournament format is compacted. There's 20 minutes between games. There's 70-minute games, timed halves, games to 13. And when the horn goes, or in this case, the observers indicate as such, the game will be over other than the finals. We have, as mentioned, Mephisto in white, but you're seeing Regiment on screen here in blue. We do have some details on the players. I will try and use my eagle eyes to pick up on the player numbers as they move around the field and call them out rather than the numbers. For those of you wondering what the conditions here are like, very playable, but you can see some rain coming down off the tent, a little bit of wind as well. We're expecting the rain to be intermittent throughout the day. It's very light. It's, for the players, yes, it's going to result in a greasy disc, but aside from that, anticipate that it's going to be quite playable for them. Regiment to pull. Huck right away, deep downfield. As the players catch up here in the middle of the field, we are going to see a dump pass. And Mephisto opened the scoring from number 86, Jacob Brissett, to make it 1-0. And the distance makes it a little bit more difficult for me to read the numbers, but we will get this right eventually. And point by Vincent Lemieux. Mephisto coached by Isabelle Lemay and Jonathan Hayduke. This regiment team, for many of them, this is their first tournament. I'm speaking with Captain Nick House ahead of the game. And just slips out of the hand there. And I do have some numbers on the regiment squad that I don't have on my rosters list here, so I'll try and fill them in at halftime. And Mephisto with a quick break to make it 2-0. Mephisto has the benefit of having started their tryout process in May as soon as their pods allowed practicing. So for many of the tournaments here, they're a top-seeded tournament coming in, or team, apologies, coming into this tournament. They're sitting at the top of their pool right now. This is a important game for them to win, for them to work through the bracket. What they're playing for here is a bid to World Ultimate Club Championships next year. Well centered. Getting it off the line there. There's Reckhouse appears to be, sorry, not Reckhouse. Regiment appears to be running horizontal stack. Phenomenal grab in the end zone by number 99, Cameron Penny, under pressure. That's a big, big, big grab, showing that they can run and getting Mephisto thinking about the long game. Quite a bit of unders had been taken there. So Cameron Penny, joined by his brother Jared, on this team. Cameron primarily strikes and cuts rather than handling. Has been on this team for 3 years. His brother is in his rookie season. And we'll look to see him on the field as well and point him out when we get the chance. Pull from number 45, David Whitney Brown, former UVic captain. So for all you West Coasters, you might recognize that player on the field. Mephisto going into a side stack with cuts coming from the back fairly deep. And only one handler for the dump. Typically the other handler will be at the very front of the stack. Very confident reset there. Letting it hang a little bit. Isolated player and several breaks across the field, and that's number 34 that picks it up. Hayden Stone, who's a rookie on this squad for Mephisto. Points moving fairly quickly in the open game with the longer throws and the immediate punishment of most turnovers. The points do move fairly quickly. If you were watching last week for Masters, given the slightly slower pace that we run at, the games and points might take a little bit longer to go to time on a regular basis. However, in this seniors tournament, with everyone moving still fairly quickly, their joints not completely destroyed by decades of ultimate, the game just moves a little bit faster. Horizontal stack from Regiment. And a turnover. I believe there was a pick call. And there's a foul call. Now, the observers are reeling that call with their hand motions there. They're not actually making the call. The players are going to have the conversation. When you see the observer, if you tap their shoulders, if you haven't seen it, that's when they're actually involving themselves in the play. So they're going to go to the observer in this case. I believe this is Marc Morin. And there might actually be a card, or they're taking something. He's taking something out of his pocket, but just a note being made. And they might have been asking the observer about the rules there, rather than the observer actually making a play or a call. Point by number 11, Samuel Bison, who is a rookie on this team and normally cuts as well. Quite a few rookies on Mephisto's line. Conversations is it's a new team program essentially. Last year gave teams a lot of opportunity to just reset, as it were. And Mephisto takes the lead 4-1. I'm going to have to double check on that, as I always tend to get the score running out of play. We have a long day of streaming ahead of us today, so please bear with me as we get this first game underway and get our legs under us, so to speak. Mephisto bringing out a zone. 3-person zone. And now melted into match defense. And blocked into the ground potentially. Mephisto setting up into a vertical stack. Cut from number 1. And we're seeing that Regiment isn't playing as tight dump defense, which is one way to shut that down is as soon as you hit 4 or 5, tighten up to the dump. It causes more upfield looks, prevents the reset. So another break for Mephisto here, making it 5-1. Regiment working on a vertical stack, changed up their look. Break to the front stack, a little bit risky there. Mephisto with another chance to break. Now, a little bit of miscommunication, it feels like. And number 73, Olivier Bastien, with another break from Mephisto. Game currently 6-1. Half will be at 7. Regiment moving it well, but it is the first game or first tournament for many of their players. So they're just gelling. Having that opportunity to play outside a region and starting with Mephisto is not a bad start. Forces them to run, forces them to get started early and to make adjustments. And a timeout is being called. Appears by Regiment. So for those that are tuned in right now, we are looking at a long day of broadcasting. Our next game will be here on Field 1, which will be this closer field right under us. The next game will be back on Field 7, and then we're looking at 3 games in a row. The second to last game will be Stella from Ontario versus Fusion from Manitoba. The last game currently we have listed, and we tentatively listed this, and is the game between, is a women's crossover game. We've currently listed that it's going to be Traffic versus Fusion. That will only happen if both teams hold seed. Given the conditions, given that this is a tournament, there are possibilities of both of those teams not holding seed. And if that were to happen, there would be different teams in that game. But that's the excitement of being here on location in tournament play, is that uncertainty. Tomorrow we're looking at 5 games, also starting early in the morning, and then we'll be following that up with a drive back into town to Waterloo. All right, enough banter here. I think this is now coming out of the timeout. Mephisto to pole, low pole, giving excellent field position to Regiment. And strike immediately, but it's a zone from Mephisto. And that is David Whitney Brown with the disc. Back to Craig Stoyles. Craig over the top. This is going to be easily received by Cameron Penny. And unfortunately, bit of miscommunication and turnover right outside the end zone. And Mephisto back on offense into their vertical stack very quickly. And a leading throw to number 13, Andre Arsenault, who takes and makes it 7-1 and halftime for this game. We're going to take a quick break. Halftime lasts 5 minutes. Please be back in 4, and I'll have a little bit more information on these two teams for you. welcome back to the live stream here in the game between Regiment in blue from Newfoundland, Labrador, and Mephisto from Quebec. If you're watching the stream now, you might be noticing a little bit of noise in the wind, and that has picked up. The wind is expected to gust to about 20 kilometers an hour from the southeast, shifting to southwest throughout the day. So the field direction will not be consistent. At halftime, Regiment going out, throwing the disc, making adjustments, just getting confident. If you've joined us, thank you very much. We have another game with Regiment immediately following this one. That one will be Regiment versus Phoenix from Ottawa. We'll do a quick transition between the streaming sessions. And we're giving lots of airtime to Regiment because of the scheduling challenges partially here at the fields. And there's a Twitter thread where I chat about that on due to trying to keep teams in their divisional bubbles and pool bubbles. There's only a certain number of game options that we have, not that we wouldn't stream this game or the one that's coming up next, but we can't just move teams around as we wish, as we normally would. As Mephisto pulls it to start the second half with their leading 7-1, and this disc is watched by number 10, Paolo Mascarin, as it goes out of bounds and is picked up by number 90, William Kerr, who's been playing on this team for 5 years. And a little bit of a poachy zone from Mephisto, as Paolo is picked up eventually. Back to Paolo. Hucking in the end zone. And with a layout attempt by number 64, Mike Pinot. Mephisto to pick up. And with an opportunity to break to start the second half. Mephisto in the same pool as Phoenix as well, which should be an interesting game. But happening later today, and unfortunately conflicts with a women's game that we plan on broadcasting. And a low huck tracked into the end zone by Andre Arsenault once again, making it 8-1 for Mephisto. Chatting with Coach Hayduk, Mephisto started tryouts under the provincial restriction guidelines with 8-player pods and ran 8 pods, so 64 players in the tryouts, and limited the contact to 1 hour each. Ran 3 versus 3 in the skills-based evaluation. Would run huck drills as well, but would run them with time buffer as to not exhaust the players, but would evaluate the skills. And from there, I've selected a pretty sizable roster to bring to UCI. The importance of these games in every single division is at least one bid to Worlds. Mephisto again with their zone. This will be a little bit of a cup. And it pays dividends as number 81, Kevin Quillen, gets the D. And then just overthrown by Basile Limoges. And Regiment with another opportunity. And that cup being set up. Additional handlers being brought back. And just fortunately not tracking the momentum as a quick point for Hayden Stone. And Mephisto is up 9-1. Regiment needing to get something going here. They've had opportunities, but they just haven't been able to connect and string together a series of passes against that zone. Not that it looks to be a particularly pressing zone, and that can be disconcerting for players when they have space to throw, and that can bait the throw, as we saw, through the middle. As a player on O, or when I'm playing offensively against the zone, I tend to ask the handlers to move it and poppers to move the disc and get that zone moving. When the zone is moving, it's difficult for it to change direction because of momentum, which creates additional opportunities to throw the disc against the flow of motion. And when you're deep in your end zone, you need to keep that zone moving in order to start tiring it out and creating those short upfield opportunities to keep moving the disc. A bigger pull this time by Mephisto. Looks like it's sailing out of bounds again. Something for them to adjust potentially. Looks to be going into match defense as well at this time, as number 56, Craig Stoyles, picks it up, brings it to the brick mark. Nope, they're going right back into their cup. And now this trap on the sideline. Craig sets a curve over the top, pulled down by Jared. Back to Stoyles. Oh, and a second attempt. Unfortunate. Little bit of a blady throw, but it was close to target. And Mephisto moving the disc quickly across the field. And just slips out of their hands. Picked up by... Oh, sorry. I'm very sorry I missed that. As we were just tracking that play, it was a very quick conversion. Donald Paholka sends it to number 7, Jeff Summers. And Regiment, excellent conversion. And it's highly likely that I may have missed a point somewhere along the way for Mephisto. As mentioned, just getting warmed up in this first game and getting mentally ready to run all the components of this live stream. I am expecting a co-commentator later today, and then tomorrow a co-commentator throughout the day, which will let me focus a little bit more on certain components. Mephisto to receive. That was excellent motion and movement, an opportunistic point by Regiment close to the end zone. As David Whitney Brown pulls and goes, Mephisto goes into their side stack. And Regiment coming out with the zone as well. Just slowing down the motion, giving Mephisto a different look. And let's see what the battle here looks like. And great D by Regiment to get it back and create that turn. Nicholas House, one of the captains of this team, sends it upfield to Paulo. Back to House. A bold hammer to David Whitney Brown. And Regiment moving it well up the field, need to go into their end zone. And excellent hammer cross field to Nick House from Whitney Brown. That was phenomenal movement upfield. There were a few opportunities for Mephisto to put the pressure on that end zone component as well, where they really clamped down, but Regiment moved right into their vertical stack, and two hammers in that play as well. Regiment bring another one in and break Mephisto. Feels like they're getting their legs under them. They're going to face Phoenix next, team with a completely different character to Mephisto. Phoenix from here in Ottawa, known to be a team that plays with a little bit more energy and maybe a bit more wildness on the field. Part of that being inspired by the West Coast connection oh so long ago. And that pole goes out of bounds, and Mephisto will be picking it up at the brick. And Regiment will be bringing their cup once again. And just slowly bringing it up the field, but that crash picked up on. Floaty high pass. Did have a little bit of bite, but no second after that. Regiment sticking with their zone. Past half field. Not a lot of upfield motion here, but the crashes getting yards bit by bit. There hasn't been too much pressure on those crashes, and then whenever they open up that upfield opportunity, now the zone melts. And Mephisto moving confidently up the field to the point by Julien Sénéchal. Once again, thank you for tuning in. If you were paying attention to the commentary last week in the Masters division and the Masters tournament, you would have heard either the commentators or myself speak about how this cost for this the streaming is being split between ourselves, I Am Ultimate, and Ultimate Canada. Ultimate Canada is providing a number of facilities here, including the scaffolding, the tent, generator, etc. The essentially things that allow us to on-site be able to bring you a stream. The other components we're covering. in past tournaments, we might have asked for donations for ourselves. We are not asking for that this time around. Instead, we're asking you to donate to a Indigenous charity or not-for-profit. Speak a little bit more about that following this point. Tight zone from Mephisto, a little bit high stall count, and brought down close. There's an opportunity for some collisions there, but different look from Mephisto in that zone as they go into a vertical stack. And a very common movement there, reset to the stack, and then a cut across the front of the end zone as Mephisto force another break. And that really was forced. If you look at the pressure that was around the disc on that particular play, it provided almost no reset opportunities, and the players also drew in closer. So almost all the players on the field were being drawn closer and closer. And that's something that happens when you're playing any sort of sport that has an object that you're moving around, whether it be a ball sport or a disc sport that's team-based, is as the pressure comes in, you feel like you want to come in and help and getting closer to the disc. You need to actually react in the opposite manner in many cases of allowing the handlers to perform that action and yourself spreading out in order to create a larger, wider field for more floaty throw opportunities. If my scorekeeping is correct, it's 11-3. If it's incorrect, which it probably is, it's likely 12-3, and this could be game point for Mephisto. Big pole is going to be coming inbounds. Picked up by Paulo Mascarin. Sending it over the top. Well picked out. And that opened the field up right again. Again, taking that shot, but a little bit lower. And the tip by number 73, Olivier Bastien. Regiment going back to their cup and slicing through the zone. And give and goes, bring it to midfield. That cup's still on. Moving motion back. Vincent Gamache, the disc. And number 42, Christophe Tremblay-Joncas, scoring that for Mephisto and making it 12-3. And by all miracles, I have been apparently keeping correct score so far. As I was saying earlier, we're not asking for donations for ourselves. Last week, we asked viewers if they would like to donate to the National Truth and Reconciliation Center, run through the University of Manitoba. Today, FN Caring, First Nations Caring, especially oriented around providing resources and support for children. We're asking that you donate there rather than to us. So Regiment with some pretty quick motion there as I try to get ahead of the play. And reacting very well to the zone. An unfortunate drop in midfield, but their motion there was quite impressive. And Mephisto looked to be on their back foot. Gabriel Monfette swung wide. And a leading throw just a little bit too far. Whitney Brown for Regiment, sends it deep. And phenomenal grab by number 69, Andrew Workman. And he's going to score that one in the end zone as well. Whitney Brown with a big high pull curling in perfectly to Workman, making it 12-4. And the confidence of this Regiment team to put it, like we've seen that with some big throws both directions. Anytime they saw an opportunity, perhaps the flicks have been a little bit underthrown, but the opportunity was there and they took it, and then the hammers as well. There is no lack of confidence on this Regiment team. It's impressive to see. I have notes here as well from all the teams, and thank you for the teams that did send their rosters in with the notes. We didn't reach out to every team, mostly the teams that were playing today. But Andrew Workman, number 69, who you saw there, pull down the sideline pull and then score the point in the end zone, has beat cancer as well. Lots of impressive and heartwarming stories in the players' notes across all of our games, which I hope to be able to bring to you today. As Mephisto now looks to close out this game. Seeing a few of the women's and mixed teams filter in the foreground, and numero 6, Vincent Lemieux, notches what I believe is the second point for themselves. And that brings it to 13-4 for Mephisto, and that will be game. And a good starting match here for both teams, as Mephisto thanks Regiment for the game. Your final in this match, 13-4. Mephisto looking reasonably strong, but this is a starting point. There's a long tournament ahead of both of these teams. Confident handler setup. We'll see how they fare when there's a little bit more pressure on their handlers from the defense. They are in the same pool as Phoenix, whom we'll see playing next against Regiment on this field here in the foreground, which we are preserving for tomorrow. Regiment came out relatively well in terms of adjusting to the pressure from Mephisto. It's likely to be that they're going to feel the same sort of pressure, maybe even a bit more pressing pressure from Phoenix, because Phoenix style is more aggressive in nature, and that's the word I was looking for earlier. Regiment also having their first game for many of their players at a tournament. It can be a little bit of an adjustment. If I count this out, there's 7 players who are rookies on this team. And for many of them, if they missed last year and were on the team last year, but were unable to play, this would be their first tournament overall. We're going to take a quick break now, leave the live stream running, and try and dry out the water here in the booth. So in addition to performing all the roles on the live stream, I am also battling with a slightly leaky tent and trying to keep the equipment dry. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back live at, if I look at the schedule very quickly, and our next game will be at 10:30, Phoenix versus Regiment. So please tune in around 10:25 for the pregame show.